Hey, Wild Hearts, welcome back to Alchemy. Let's get raw and real on one of the things I get asked the most. Is it a trauma bond or is it real? How to tell between trauma bonding and authentic desire, and how to tell if a partner is in alignment. We have just traversed quite an intense pattern interrupt session, and I wanted to drop into a deeper somatic space with you all on listening to the body and going into the next arc of somatic work and how to start listening and reading the body a little bit more as an oracle, as a guide. Just because something is intense, it does not mean it is aligned. Just because something feels electric and alive does not mean it is safe. And I spoke about this on the last episode about how our brain is wired for safety, and safety is often familiarity to us and not necessarily something that is safe for our nervous system and our body and where we're wanting to traverse. This is something I see happen quite a lot. And I actually believe it's very linked to women being shut down, disconnected, and quite numb. So when something or someone comes along and starts to really activate this aliveness, this erotic or nervous system activation, they cling to it and feel like it is true and it is aligned and it must be love. But I actually believe that it's the complete numbness and severance from body and self that they're actually desiring and craving more so. And I'm going to speak from very lived experience here that, yeah, there was a time for me that I felt like I had met the love of my life. I had a very intense nervous system activation around this person. I couldn't breathe properly around them. I just wanted to be engulfed by them and consumed by them. My chest would tighten, my stomach would flip, I would get butterflies, my body shook. And I just thought it was deep chemistry and it was meant to be, but it was actually severe activation within my body. And it took me some time to realize that this was actually a more deeper trauma bond that was disguised within my body. I would feel like this obsession, and it was, I marked it as passion. I believed it was passion, and yeah, this anxiety that I would feel, and trust me, it really activated this sort of anxious attachment within myself. I mistook that for aliveness, for excitement, and I see a lot of people flipping into the anxiety, especially women with dynamics with men that are unavailable, men that are emotionally detached, men that cannot show up for them. This is one of the hugest things I see with the women around me. They will become this chaser. They get hooked on inconsistency and they mistake this erotic charge mixed with fear as love, or it must meant to be. I've never felt this way about a person before. I've never had this experience before within my body. And I believe it is that deep disconnection to the body that perpetuates this cycle. And yeah, it feels like withdrawals within the system, within the body. So when they pull away, it activates these deep-seated wounds of wanting to be chosen, wanting to be seen and understood. The being chosen wound is so huge for women, this like competitive wound, and I see it often. But when people pull away, it is not devotion. It is creating dysregulation within your system. And this is what we're mistaking for true desire. This is what we are somatically feeling and labeling it as something that it is not. So, with true desire, there is an expansion within the body, not this contraction and this tightness. And I want to say that by saying, like, some desires do feel edgy, and some desires do need a nervous system rewiring to be able to receive and open up and feel like it's obtainable. Like, this is the deeper wounding imprinting that we do with somatic therapy and this type of erotic alchemy work. But true desire does feel more open, expansive, warm, and there is this layer of like polarity dance without severe panic. The severe panic is something I want to actually talk about, because this is the thing that a lot of women will grasp at and have this like really graspy energy for. And it actually is like a very repulsive energy. It is like a control mechanism disguised to, well, it's not really disguised, but it is a desire for control to give you the illusion that you are safe. And there is an element of being turned on within the body without overriding your intuition with true desire. True to desire doesn't really make you feel smaller. It makes you more you. Like, allowing desire to move through your body and transform you and move with you is a completely different feeling than a erratic sort of graspy energy, which comes from activation from a trauma bond or detached or misaligned attached connection and relationship. Your body can be turned on and unsafe at the same time. And I don't think we talk about this enough, actually, because I highlighted this on the last podcast episode, speaking about how, yeah, there is this element of feeling safe with sex and the attachment with sex. It kind of soothes that wounding. It's still an unsafe attachment. And your body can get really activated and turned on by this. And I did a study on this when I was in my studies, in my course a fair few years ago now, and it was called Sex at Dawn. And it actually, if you ever read this book, it is so enlightening to sexuality and the human experience. But it goes on about these attachments and how, hooking up and connecting and having sex through a tumultuous relationship can actually like heighten the experience more, and you can be turned on more. And it's how we're kind of like biologically wired in some spaces and places. And it's a really interesting, profound book. But yeah, there's this whole thing on social media and in my realm at the moment, and with like erotic embodiment and sexuality, where they believe, oh, when you're safe and you're more turned on when you're safe, you're more turned on and you're more open when you're safe. And I want to say that that's not true. It's not true all the time. You can be deeply unsafe and highly turned on at the same time. Let's look at conscious kink, BDSM, power dynamics, tasting the edges of power play. Your body is like unsafe and safe at the same time, and your body can be turned on. And yes, there is an element of being safe within the body to allow you to open up and experience like profound states of orgasm and bliss and connection. But truly, the opposite is true sometimes too, where unsafety can be a erotic kink and can really activate you and turn you on. And I want to share that with you, because a lot of the times, a lot of like trauma bonded people, or people who are misaligned in their attachment, have this huge activation and turn on sexually. And I don't think we talk about that enough. That is how you can start to unravel and feel into a trauma bond versus actual true yearning and desire. And I want to speak a little bit about my own personal experience of how my body like shut down through this experience. I want to actually highlight this by saying I don't speak about this often or much. I want to talk about how it unraveled for me, how I really started to hit that it was like my attachment and trauma wounding and bonding with this person. Because honestly, I've never loved, and I'm putting that in quotations, somebody more in my entire life. I've never been so sexually activated, open, alive than with this person. And it took me so much lessons to bring back and share with my work. I have a very deep relationship imprinting in this life where I learn a lot through my relational dynamics. And I want to say that I started to grasp the pattern and see it logically and consciously much, much, much longer than when my body sort of started to shut down. So I thought. And then in hindsight, my body was actually speaking to me long before my mind was cluing on to these patterns in these like micro shutdown moments, these micro contractions, these little micro bits of like something's not right here. And I couldn't pinpoint it. And yeah, I didn't leave when I knew that I was anxiously attached, deeply sort of probably possibly very trauma bonded. I actually only started to leave this situation when my body actually started shutting down. Now, I had a pretty severe experience where I started losing my hair. I started getting unexplained rashes. My body started to close sexually as well and stopped opening as much in instances, not all the time. And these were little micro moments that I missed that my body was actually talking to me. And then it got to a point where my body was actually completely shut down and numb. Like the intensity wasn't having such an effect on me anymore. My attachment wasn't having, because I had shoved everything down so far to keep the peace, to please the other person, to stay in this relationship. I was so heavily attached from those 4 pillars that I spoke about, 5 pillars I spoke about in the last podcast. I was attached to an identity, a future. My nervous system was fried. I was very erotically charged, and there was things that I was not willing to do. I was willing to hold on until my body was kind of screaming at me. And I really want to highlight this part because most women don't impart this knowledge onto other women. And most women don't impart these like relational dynamics because we don't speak about it and we don't speak up until it's too late to the younger generation. My desire in this work is to prevent these pattern cycles from ever happening to a woman or to anybody ever again. And the way we prevent it is to get them while they're young, get them when they're deep in their maiden and early in their maiden, I should say, and figuring it all out. We need to talk about our stories in a way that is embodied and grounded and not just playing the victim. I am not a victim to this circumstance. I actually believe this was one of the most liberating, expansive dynamics I've ever been through, and learned so much about myself and who I am. And I want to share that later in another podcast. But it was, and this is the art of alchemy. I learned so much, but it's like I want to be able to impart this knowledge when people are younger and learning about relationships, learning about their bodies, learning about how to talk to their bodies and listen to their intuition so that this doesn't imprint and they don't have to do the deep excavation work and the pain and trauma work later on, right? So they can live like free and powerfully and uninhibited by all of this. My desire for this person really started to shift and flatten. My pussy went quiet. My pussy was like insatiable and very open for this person, which was profound. I had a very powerful experience with my own body with this person, but it's like it stopped being hungry and craving and shut down even more. And that was really hard to go through after such an activating and awakening time. And most people struggle in this. Most women struggle in this, in the after effects and in the aftermath of such an experience. And this is what happens when your nervous system and your body stays activated too long, right? It's an ebb and a flow. Like, it is, nervous systems expand and contract. It is the cycle of life, expansion, contraction, death, rebirth. Like, it is this, it's a seasonal arc. And it's like when you are activated for too long in the system, in the nervous system, in body, and even in desire, your arousal starts to collapse. Your wetness starts to reduce. Your pelvic floor, your pussy actually starts to brace. Your desire actually starts turning into that neediness and that grasping for survival. And we mistake that for love or alignment or deeply powerful activation. And it's just not true. When your body starts to shut down, it only shuts down when you have been overriding yourself for so long. When you have been overriding your nervous system, overriding your body, not listening to it, people pleasing, fawning, self-abandoning, and betraying yourself, to a point where your body starts shutting down, it's because you haven't been listening. Your body will talk to you. Your intuition will talk to you. So the signs are all there. Synchronicities, everything is all there. But we get so attached to a narrative and a story in our mind, because we've been taught to be mind-based beings, that we can't let that go and drop down, and our body and everything will be whispering to us until it starts screaming. So this is why we're seeing a rise of autoimmune disorders with women. And this is why the body will start to like eat itself and attack itself. So you actually stop. It is divine protection. When you start to let go of performance and stop betraying, that is when you can really start to come into harmonious alignment with self and with your entire womb and body. Like, your womb will pulse and reject people before you ever will get it in your mind, right? Your pH will be off. Your pussy will close. It'll dry up. Your body will close, and too much body closing will actually eat away completely at your desire and eros. And then we get into these moments where we blame ourselves, go to war with ourselves, think that it's all of our fault, and further try and attack the body while it's already moving through a self-annihilation episode. It's the truth, and it's harsh, and it's intense. And I want to talk a little briefly about how we can move into reclamation after this? Like, how do we reopen the body after it shuts down? So for me, I am a woman that needs eroticism, eros, and sexuality in my life. I need to be a turned on woman, or else my creational juices dry up. I get dry as hell. I lose my fire and I become placid and flaccid and very unemotional. And that is when I know I am actually completely out of alignment. That is when I know that I have tolerated so much that I have completely overridden everything, and I have started to make my tolerance for bullshit and misalignment high. And when you get to that point, a lot of people will burn this shit down. I mean, that's what I do. I get to a certain point of tolerance or misalignment or uh, really grasping what's going on. It takes me a bit. It takes me a bit to process it in my mind, process it in my body. And then once I get it and once my body says no, I am a oh hell fuck no. And I will burn down every fucking bridge with myself even on it sometimes to run away from something that is eroding my body and my sense of self. I would never choose anybody over myself ever again. One of the things that most people do when they get to this scenario is they try and force their desire. They try and force their libido. They will try harder in bed. They will go into performance. They will try to overplease, overgive. They will recreate trauma loops and to reignite old intensity and flame. And this can look like discarding, creating another cycle, making out together. It's like a vicious arc that actually completely over time wears you down. And that is not the way to go about it. And you know, I truly believe that we will recreate and do these things again and again and again, these bonds, these attachments, these relationships, these sexual paradigms or intimacy expressions, if that's what I would call it, until we've had enough. And we have to kind of do it again and again sometimes until we learn, until we know that the stove is hot and the house is on fire and to get out. And that's okay. People really go to war with themselves and berate themselves, and that is what I feel actually creates that downward spiral even further, where the person that they run to or the situation that they run to is their ache and savior in the same breath. And this is where they get completely really stuck in that trauma bond. And yeah, it takes a lot of nervous system repatterning, creating safety in the nervous system, and slowing down your erotic pacing. And that's hard to do in this era, in this life, because we have such a high dopamine threshold and such a high, it's actually, you've got to retrain that nervous system, retrain your dopamine receptors, slow it down. Soft and slow is powerful, and we don't talk about that enough. Listening to your subtle no's in the body and learning how to do this before your subtle no's become big screams and you're losing yourself and spending decades trying to get back to yourself and then berating yourself and feeling guilty. Like, that is not what we want in this space. There is an element of restoring your pelvic softness and your pussy connection, pussy, womb, heart connection. There is a repair there that needs to happen, and going deeper into feeling the grief. spoke about that on the last episode too, about how people are so afraid of feeling grief and sadness that they are willing to hold on to something just so they don't have to feel that. It's like soothing their wound with the poison. And you don't have to always drink the poison to get the medicine. Like, it's okay to spit it out, right? I'm just going to take a breath. And I think with that, I feel like perhaps maybe you can take a breath at this moment. Placing one hand on your chest and one hand like over your womb. So putting it on your heart chamber in your womb and just taking some subtle breaths in between the two, just organically first. Sometimes I like to envision like this invisible thread between heart and womb, feeling the rise and the fall of the hands with each breath. And as you drop into your beautiful body, your chest, your heart, and your womb, and creating this like heart-womb coherence connection, allow yourself to just sit with the body and feel the sensations and ask, where is it that you have been overriding yourself, abandoning yourself, not listening to the whispers? Where has your body been tightening and you haven't heard it? And then just offering your body some beautiful gratitude and thank you for just this small drop in, right? We often forget the power of the subtle moments, the small sips, the pause, the breath, the connection. Softness and slowness is so yummy for a woman's nervous system. And your desire, your eros, your eroticism starts to return when safety and connection is here in the now, when your acceptance deepens. And just thanking your body for doing all it does for you, seeing how that opens you up and softens you a little bit. And just remind yourself in this space that the goal isn't to feel everything intensely all the time. The goal is to be here, to be present, and to feel yourself clearly. Right? Free from the outside noise, free from the continual penetration externally. Like you're allowed to be here. You can be home here. Something I really love to do is just like send love to myself. Sometimes I like to like kiss my hands and then like place them on my womb or on my breast, my heart. Just offering it that delicious love. And then the call for the rest of this week is to just go soft and slow with yourself. Take in those small sips, drink in your own presence and essence. And that is when you get really attuned to your body and you can really start to listen to if it's wounding or if it's desire, if it's authentic or if it's attachment. And if you're ready to really dive into this deeper work, to recalibrate your body and to recognize safety and desire again, this is the work that I guide. This is the work that I do. This is my deepest calling and pleasure in this life. And I am here for you to connect with. I have spaces open for one-on-one mentorship. It would be an honor and a pleasure to guide you through this, to map your inner landscape and come home to yourself. And yeah, I'd love for you to also connect with me and tell me uh, what's landed for this episode. Share it with somebody you know that needs to hear this. Subscribe, rate, comment. Deeper conversations are always welcome. I also have a few other available things. The honeypot is live. It is self-guided to do this work. And if you'd love to buy me a coffee, please do so following the links on the show notes. And remember to stay feral and free, my loves. I'll see you on the next episode. Mwah.